Welcome back to the Big Ranch Show, the real home of progressives. Now, when tragedy strikes, sometimes all you can do is look for the silver lining, look for the people that step up to do the most good, and see what good happens during the process of recovery. Now, the next three stories that I'm going to bring you, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. There have been a lot of depressing and sad stories through the news, a lot of stressful stories, but I want to show you the good side of a few of these situations. Now, you may remember the fire in Maui and how it destroyed Lahaina. Well, it left a lot of people without medication. It left a lot of people without their diabetes medications, their mental health meds, and even their things for heart health and things like that that they need. Well, here's Dr. Lahona and two of his staff members. He runs a little pharmacy about 40 miles away from Lahaina. But within 24 hours, he was getting phone calls of people pleading for help because they didn't have any access to their medications. They couldn't get what their life-saving medications they needed. So within 48 hours, he was on the ground in Lahaina and in the area trying to help people get their medications. Not only did Dr. Lahona show up with medication, he showed up with medication and didn't charge people for it. He was literally taking food and money out of his own, out of his own mouth and money out of his own pocket. His staff as well needs to be commended because they're split between two separate locations. The place there in Lahaina where they're trying to give out medications, and the main shop so they don't hurt their customers back home. So these people are out there just kicking ass every day trying to help people. And I think these are the people we really need to step up and say something good, say something about. People like this deserve some praise. Because he was out there giving medicine away. You know how expensive medicine can be. Now he's got it to where they're able to work with some insurance companies, not all, but he's helping people get their medications regardless of their ability to pay. He is doing what a real American is supposed to do. You're supposed to help your neighbors during tragic times. And we need more people like this. People that aren't going to sit there and hem and haw about what they're doing. People that are just going to do. And aren't going to care who you are when they do it. Luckily, there are people like Dr. Lahona and his staff. Dr. Lahona apparently opened his pharmacy about 6 years ago in his community there on the island. I believe he's on the island of Maui there, but apparently it's just not too far of a drive from the location. So he's there, he's helping, and people are getting the medications they need. Now I'm sure he's not able to help everybody all the time because there's only so much you can do, right? But I want to commend Dr. Lahona and his staff for everything they're doing for the people in Lahaina. Now, in this next story, it takes place in Juneau, Alaska. If you remember back in August, there was a glacier burst flood of sorts that eroded the banks away from an area in Juneau. And since that flooded several houses, several were condemned. In one house, you saw on viral video, fall directly into the ocean. Not ocean, the river. And Leo here, the cat you see, Leo was feared lost forever. Leo was a cat that Elizabeth Wilkins and her partner had adopted back in 2020, known as they called him a COVID rescue. A lot of people, adopted cats and dogs since they were going to be home all the time, right? Well, they had gone on a hiking excursion to Oregon just a day or so before the tragic events that lost their home. And when they came home, they were holding out hope that Leo would be found. For weeks after the event, they couldn't find him. There were reports of him, but they all turned out not to be Leo. And finally, Miss Wilkins was looking through Facebook and came across a lost cat, and she knew exactly who it was. She knew it was Leo from the first as soon as she saw the picture. And as she got close to the house, she started calling his name, and he came right to her, just acting like, "Where you been? I've been right here. Where you been?" She said he was doing pretty good. He's in pretty good health. Looked like he was a little skinnier maybe than when she left him, but he did eat well when they got him into a house. They got him back to a friend's house, and he even chased down a mouse. So Leo is on his way to being fully back to his normal self now that his people are around. And I think that's awesome. Like I said, sometimes you have to look for the silver lining. You got to look for the good in the bad. And that's all you can do. And Leo here is one of those. And if nothing else, it brings peace and some joy into the lives of the people that lost their home. Now they have said that Leo is staying at a friend's house until they can secure a new home as of September 3rd when that article went out. And then Leo will be reunited with them for good after they find a new place to stay. Luckily for Leo here, he wasn't lost as the house fell into the river. And I'm absolutely happy to know that they were able to save their kitty cat. And they hoped, though, they said if there was any animal that was going to survive that would have been smart enough and everything to get out of the house or away from the house as things went the way they did, it would have been Leo. They were like, he's not even afraid of bears, so he's a tough cat. So Leo, I'm glad you're back with your family, and I'm glad that your family is back with you, and I hope whenever they find new homes, our new home, y'all can go live happily ever after, I suppose you could say. But as you see, Leo's a very cute little cat there. Now, the last story we'll talk about today happens to come from Morocco. If you remember last week, they were hit with a devastating earthquake. Thousands killed, even more injured. Houses just completely pulverized into dust in some places around the epicenter. And here is the story of this little puppy dog right here. Some CBS journalists were in Morocco covering the news stories of the rescues and things and everything going on with the earthquake, when they heard a yelp from under the rubble. And they went back to where they heard the noise, and there was a dog that was barely getting out of the dirt. He had dirt all in his mouth, and he had clearly been born just before the earthquake hit. His eyes weren't even open yet. But the news crew stopped what they were doing, grabbed this dog, and took him to a vet wherever they could get to a vet. He was seen. He's being taken care of, and he seemed okay. The cool thing is, some of the journalists that were there decided that they would rescue this little dog. Let me find their names here. They said they carried him into the shade of their vehicle. They found some milk. A Moroccan aid worker even donated a baby bottle to help feed him. Then they drove the 5 hours back to Morocco, down some treacherous roads and traffic jams that made the search and rescue efforts really hard. But then CBS news engineer Steve Argyle said his partner and him had been looking for a puppy dog and said they would be willing to adopt. So the vet they took the dog to decided they would hold the dog while they get the paperwork back in London for them to be able to bring the dog to London from Morocco, and then the dog will have a forever home. They named the dog Popty, Popty. Apparently, was a name that this guy and his partner had come up with for whenever they did get a dog. So apparently, it's got a connection for them, and I just think it's awesome that people step up and help these animals. A lot of people wouldn't care. A lot of people would just be like, "Oh, it's just a dog," but it's never just a dog. It's a life, right? I think a dog's life, a cat's life is just as important as a human's life. And any bit of anything, any life you can save during a tragic event or after a tragic event, I think it's just monumental. And so these three stories, they show you the good in humans, that there are good people left in this world that are out there just caring about other people and other beings. It shows you the kind of the human condition. How when there's tragic events, there are always people that are going to step up to help. And I think that's what we miss sometimes. I don't think we realize how special it is to have people in this world that will step up for other people and other beings, regardless of what's going on for them or what's going on around them. We see it all the time with tragic events. Whenever tornadoes hit places, you hear about it. Fires, all sorts of devastating things that can happen. But you have to look for the silver lining. You have to look for the people doing the most good. Or else we'll get sucked into things and dwelling on things like the destruction of the tragic event. And we'll lose sight of the good things that are coming out of it. These things shouldn't have to happen to anybody. There should not, you shouldn't have to have stories like this, but unfortunately, things happen. Bad things happen all the time, and you got to look for the silver lining, or it'll just drag you down. So going forward, I'm going to try to keep adding these stories like this to our weekly videos here at the Big Ranch Show. May not be every week, but I'll be back next week with some more stuff about a possible government shutdown, among several other issues going on currently. Anyhow, y'all have a great day. I'll see you down the road, and I'll see you next week.